Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back again, and today we are pulling apart the Sega TeraDrive. Whoa, this is fun. So, one of the very first things you need to do is unplug everything. Oh, keyboard, mouse? I don't think so. Close your little flap, you don't want that to get damaged. This one got damaged in transit or something. Or was it always damaged? Maybe that's how I bought it, I can't remember. Remove any of your cool game cartridges like Sonic the Hedgehog, the most famous hedgehog. Well, they aren't wrong about that. Unplug power, that's pretty important. You don't want to be electrocuting yourself. Anything else that's plugged in, set it free. Now you're going to want a 10-cent coin. Oh, sorry, a 10-cent Australian coin. You'd probably use some American or UK equivalent coin, or a piece of plastic. I'm going to have a look, see if I can find a piece of plastic around here. Yep, that looks good. I've got a, what this was out. It's like a pirate sword. Just to wedge this up. That's actually quite a good little wedge. Because what would have sat on there, I'd imagine, would have been a Mega CD unit, or possibly the 32X. Although I don't think so, the 32X was never a very good thing. It's essentially the same as the slot on the side of the Mega Drive. And you can actually, people have wired in a Mega CD. I did see that, or a 32X. I remember seeing it in a video and I was like, wow! I was going to do that, but I never did because I am very time poor. That's alright. So, comes apart pretty easily. Oh, make sure you've got any floppy disks ejected. Doesn't really matter, actually. So, 4 screws on the outer, on the sides. Don't lose them. That would be very bad. Thankfully, these are really well built machines. I've got to say, I'm very impressed with the work that IBM used to do. Like, these machines are built to last forever, really. And then you've got the Model M keyboard, of course, and that thing is a beast in itself. It really doesn't have a mode of failure. I mean, if you have a look at the way they've designed it, no rubber, just a buckling spring. It's genius. I only wish I'd been around early enough to get to use them. Unfortunately, I'm about half a decade too early or too late. So you can see in the back there I've got the little compact flash card, which I now know is for the Amstrad Mega PC, which means the Amstrad Mega PC has a TeraDrive card in it, so its Windows wouldn't run, because Windows for Workgroups, Windows 3.11, specifically the Windows for Workgroups version, does not like running on 286 hardware. So the latest you could get to run on this was 3.11, but not Windows for Workgroups. So you're missing out on maybe a bit of networking. But honestly, I've got one ISA slot in here, and I need it for the flash card. So there are those screws, another 4 screws. So there's 8 screws total holding the case together. Just lift this up. Sort of lifts up, doesn't sort of tilt, sort of pulls back a little bit and then up, as you saw. Pop that down nice and safe so it doesn't fall over. And shuffle everything on this, well, I guess this is my new bench since I don't have a workbench anymore, like in the old days. I can actually bring this a bit closer and have a look at some of the internals. Wow, look at that. So unlike the Amstrad Mega PC, all the chips for the Mega Drive side are actually on the main board, whereas the Amstrad Mega PC had the card that used to slot in. Whoops. And this isn't magnetized. Oh, there it is. Mustn't lose that screw. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove this little guy. This is one of the 3 that I made up using Osh Park for the PCB, a distinct purple. That's good old Osh Park. And I've gone ahead and just removed all the copyrights, and I know that's a bit mean, but I put them up under little, there it is, McRetro.net. Blast process since 1990X. I tell you, just getting that silkscreen on there is difficult. You have, for some reason, the tools that were available open source for Mac and Linux, they just don't run properly. You've got to use Windows. It's a Windows world, unfortunately, at least for most things. And on the back here, we've got all the settings, which I'm sure will come in handy one day for someone. TeraDrive uses C800 as the address. And such silkscreen, many text. Wow, geez, I must have put that there. Don't forget to donate to me in Dogecoins, because I want to collect them all. Now, we're inside. Look at that. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good, actually. So up here, I believe that's the mega chip. Yep, there it is. 6800. 6800 and another 0. And if we shift over a little bit there, we've got the old, it's an AMD chip, which is quite nice. AMD, of course, with the Athlon back in, well, 99, 2000. That was a beautiful chip. That was my first real PC build. So I do quite like AMD for being the underdog. These days I don't really care much for them. They're not as good as Intel, sadly. They lost their way. And there's a few trace wires running there which do something. I can't remember what. The two models I have, the Model 3 and the Model 2, they have slightly different wirings. I think the Model 3 has yellow wires, which is quite exciting, but there aren't as many of them, or there are more of them. I can't remember. Unfortunately, without the serial number on the back of this unit, I don't quite have a time frame for when this was manufactured. I mean, I can go off chips on the main board, and we get things like 9108, so week 8, 91, 9106, 9102, 9051. So sort of early 1991 this would have been manufactured, which is, you know, not too bad. So internally it's not too complicated, thankfully. Floppy drives sit at the front, nice and easy. If this was the hard drive model, the hard drive would sit there. And actually, if I remember correctly, yes, okay, the hard drive cable, which is actually some sort of EDSI thing, it actually goes up there at the very top of that riser card, and the power is possibly to the right there. Yeah, so it's quite a good little machine. It's well built. The capacitors are all, you'll notice there's no surface mount capacitors, thankfully, so these won't leak for years. As I mean, they might dry out a little bit, but that's okay. If they're going to leak, it's going to be down the legs first, which will hopefully not cause any troubles. The backup battery is beautiful. It's a lovely, let's take this on a whoop. Just have a look in here. Look at that. Beautiful, I've used a BR2032. I guess it would have been a CR2032 originally. Floppy drive cables, there's a bit of RAM. The power supply unit, whew, that's pretty basic. So even though it's it does have an ISA card slot, one of the things missing is the negatives. So yeah, that's missing, which could cause troubles for some cards. So it's not quite 16-bit ISA. It's sort of, while the standard was evolving, I suppose. I mean, who knows how long this thing was in development for. I mean, given it's a 286 in 91, that's, you know, not the best of times. There's the RAM. There is onboard RAM, which I'm assuming is 512. Let's zoom a little bit on that. 512 RAM on board there. And then we've got these two 1 meg chips. I've used IO data. Must have been for a good reason. And that's about it for the internals. There's not too much that's exciting. Well, oh, one thing that is a bit interesting is these chips here. They do mention Proto. And this little guy over here. So I don't know what Protos were doing. I guess these never really took off, so they didn't need to worry about it too much. But there's a little overview of the internal, so you've got a better idea. If you want to really get down on and into it, you've got to remove these screws here, these screws here. This whole front part has to come off. And what happens is that you then lift out this riser card. And there's more motherboard under there with more things on it. But apart from that, it's a pretty tidy little machine. There we go. So IBM and Sega working together. Match made in heaven. Well, thanks for watching. Next up we'll actually be redoing the XT-IDE card. Actually, that reminds me, what sort of chip have I got on here? 28C64, okay. The bare minimum. I was meant to get a 256, but I didn't. Well, that's me for you. Unreliable and lazy. Thanks for watching. Chugga 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 chugga.